Hello, it's Jeanette with Geomazing Paper Crafts. I'm so happy you could join me today. I'm back with another video tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make beautiful medallions using the new stamp set Eastern Beauty by Stampin'Up. This is the stamp set here. I absolutely love this stamp set because it has all these small elements that help me create all sorts of designs for backgrounds, for borders, and especially for medallions, which is what I'm going to be showing you today. I also want to mention that if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll be telling you about a special giveaway. So I hope that you'll stick around to the end. So the cards that I have here were made with some of the Eastern Palace Designer Series paper. This gorgeous paper introduces us to 3 of the 5 new in colors that Stampin' Up! Is coming out with in their new annual catalog. So let me show you the papers. I've cut into some of these, but oh my goodness, they're just wonderful. Look at these gorgeous papers. And there's 2 specialty papers. These are foiled in gold. Look, isn't that pretty? Oh my goodness, I used a piece of that gold foil for this little accent piece on this card here. So, and there's going to be 3 new ink colors that you can get early. There's an early release, and they are Lemon Twist, Fresh Fig, and Tranquil Tide. Gorgeous, and those are some of the colors that are in that designer series paper. Okay. So for a limited time, you can purchase 2 different bundles that feature products from the Eastern Beauty suite. Now this offer will end on May 31st, never to be repeated. So all this information is about this gorgeous suite for this product. It's going to be listed in my blog, and that the link to the blog is just below the video, okay? So to start with, I'm going to be using my own homemade template and also a stamp positioning tool. Now, the only stamp positioning tool that Stampin' Up! Carries right now is the Stamp-A-Majig, okay? And you can absolutely use this Stamp-A-Majig template, and I'll show you how a little later in this video. But for now, I'll be using my Precision Press plates, okay, by We Are Memory Keepers. Now, if you have a Misty or the new Tim Holtz SPT stamp positioning tool, or even your own homemade tool, you'll be able to use this template. But I bet you're saying, but wait, Jeanette, are you going to show us how to make this template? Well, no, sorry. But hint, hint, like I said, stick around to the end of this video, okay? So just let me talk a little bit about my template. It measures 5 inches square, and the circle in the middle is 3 inches. Now, the reason it's just 3 inches is that I found that this size gives me the most versatility when it comes to matching it up with my other circle tools, which whether that could be a die or a punch. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a little bit. But notice that I have all of these guidelines on the outside of the circle. There's 24 lines. Now, why 24? Well, that's so you can make 6 different symmetrical measurements. Now think of all the numbers that you can divide into 24. You can divide 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 12, okay? So depending on how small your stamp is, you can use this template to stamp up to 12 times around, making it an even design 12 times, and that's pretty neat. Now there's also a little notch right here. See that little notch right there that I made? Okay, and I just cut that out between 2 of the lines. And this notch is going to be very helpful when I need to pick up the circle that I'll be stamping on. And I'm going to be, repositioning that circle. So I'll use this paper piercing tool to get into that little notch and pick up my circle. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to place my template so that the top, bottom, and 2 sides line up with the grid lines, okay? So I can put it right in the corner, but if it's not perfect, then I'll just move it up just a square up and a square over, okay? And I want to make sure that these lines line up with my grid line here and here. And if you see in my stamp positioning tool, I put a little tiny dot right there to mark the center. Okay, so you want to line this up that way, but if you're using the Misty tool, you can place one of your grid sheets down first so that you'll have a grid underneath. Now this is what the Misty grid paper looks like. I don't have a Misty, but my aunt gave me this grid paper. And so you definitely want to have a grid sheet underneath because it's helpful in determining the center of the circle, just in case you want to stamp a single center design, which is what I'm going to do. Okay? So now I need to make sure that this template will stay in place. So I'm going to use some snail adhesive on the back. Okay. And I'm just going to put it on the corners here. Excuse me. You can also use some repositionable adhesive or washi tape, or if you're using your Misty, use the magnets. But I'll most likely be using this template with my stamp tool. So the snail adhesive is going to work out just fine. Now let me just reposition this again, making sure that my lines match up on the side, on the top, and the bottom on the two sides. Okay. Now I've cut this template using some of Stampin' Up's thick Whisper White cardstock. So for a bit of contrast, I'm going to be using some Very Vanilla cardstock in my for this circle, and the Very Vanilla is the background color in some of this Eastern Palace Designer Series paper. So the color ink that I'm going to be using is Fresh Fig. This is the new Fresh Fig. It's a really pretty purple color. Purple wine color, I guess you would say. Okay. Now, I haven't ordered the re-inkers yet for this Fresh Fig. Otherwise, I would have inked it up with my little, inked up one of my little Stampin' Unink spots so that I could work neater with the smaller ink pads. But I'm going to be using my sponge dauber. Let's see, grab my sponge dauber here. Okay, and this is going to help me ink up my smaller stamps that I'll be using. I know this stamp is quite juicy since it's brand new, so dipping the ink in the ink dauber, dipping the ink dauber in the ink pad to transfer the ink is going to work out just fine with this juicy ink pad. I've always had trouble keeping ink off of my surface when I use the full pad, so that's why I'm going to go with the dauber. Okay. Now I'm really sorry about this glare here too. But I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to block that out just right away. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is place this 3-inch circle inside the center of the template. Okay. Now it might be helpful to use some repositionable tape, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some repositionable adhesive. This is the Scotch brand of the repositionable adhesive. And I am just going to use a little bit on the back here. And I'm going to place that in here. Now I don't want to use any adhesive that's too sticky because I'm going to be rotating my circle several times. Okay, so that repositionable adhesive, it's just so that it sticks down just enough so that it won't pick up every time I go to stamp it down. And of course you can use your magnets too, but I wouldn't recommend it because magnets might get in the way of your design. Okay. Now then you're going to want to make some tick marks in pencil, and you want to line those tick marks up with the top, the bottom, and the two sides, and just make a small little tick mark. It doesn't have to be too circle, but you'll be erasing these tick marks later, so don't worry about that. And these tick marks are going to help you lining up your circle when you rotate, and you'll see what I mean in just a little bit. So next, you're going to want to determine the size you want your medallion to be. You can leave it at this 3 inches if you want, but I'm going to make my medallion the size of one of these dies from the Layering Circle dies. I'm going to go with not the largest or the next one, but the third one down, okay? All right, let's see. I'm going to, you could use the scallop circles to determine the size, but For now, I won't be cutting my medallions out of a scallop circle. I may be using a scallop circle to frame this medallion like I did with these cards here. You see, the cards have a little scallop circle around them. Okay, but I'm not going to do that with the circle here. Okay, so what you want to do is place the die blades up. Okay, and in the center of the circle, make a small tick mark with your pencil inside, about 4 little tick marks, kind of like you did with the tick marks with the lines. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and trace the whole circle because, you know, after all, you are going to be erasing, but I'm not going to do that. I just want this to be a guideline for me so that I'll know exactly where to place my stamp. Okay, I'm going to put that aside for now. Now, once I have this done, now it's time to choose my first stamp. Okay, where's my set? Here it is, right here. Okay. I'm going to first stamp this small dotted circle, okay, in the center of the design. Now, this is where I'd like to put my sentiment, in the center. I'm going to remove the circle. Let me pull that that small dotted line out of here. Now I'm going to remove my circle with my paper piercing tool, and I'm going to use the grid lines to help me determine the center of this circle. I just kind of want to make sure that it's in the center. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to swing the top over, and I'm going to pick this up, and then I'm going to put my circle back in. Now, once I have my stamp positioned, okay, then I'm going to ink this up using my sponge dauber. Now, let me grab my ink, my fresh fig ink. Okay, and then I'm going to use my sponge dauber. Okay, nice and juicy, juicy pad. And then I'm just going to ink it up around. Make sure that it's really good. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp it down. But if I want to make sure, and if I want to be precise about where I'm stamping, I could use a little thin piece of acetate. Okay, I've cut this acetate just a little bit bigger than my square. So if I stamp it down, then I can determine that, yeah, that's centered. And if I'm not happy with it, then I could move my stamp. And it looks pretty good to me, so I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to go ahead and green ink with my sponge dauber. And then I'm going to smack it right down in the middle there. Okay. Then I'm going to choose my sentiment, and I'm going to line that up. Now, the sentiment that I'm going to use, let me see if that thank you sentiment will fit in the middle of this little design here. Yes, it does. I think that's what I'm going to do, is use the thank you sentiment. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, like I did before, I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to use the center of my grid sheet to make sure I'm centering this design the best I can. Okay? Make sure the words line up with the grid sheet there. And then I'm going to remove with a piece of sorry about that. I'm going to wipe my stamp off with some wet baby wipe. Okay? And that's so that when I pick up this stamp, my fingers don't get all smudgy. Okay, so now I'm going to pick this up. And now I'm going to stamp. I'm going to line this back up with my lines. And then I'm going to stamp. Now, I could use my full pad if I want to, but let me show you what I mean by I can't seem to use that pad without inking up the surface here. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it down. And for now, yep, that's pretty good in the center there. I'm going to wipe this up, and then I'm going to remove it. Okay. Okay, for the designs on the outer edge, I like to start with some of the larger stamps. And I'm not talking about the largest stamps that are mostly for centerpieces. I'm talking about the larger of the accent stamps. Now, this is one I haven't used before, so I thought I'd save it for this video. I hope it's going to turn out good. We'll see. Now, I'm going to place this right in below that line that I drew. Okay. Or right at the edge of that line that I drew. And I'm trying to make sure that it's centered. So now I'm going to pick up my stamp with this side here. And now I'm going to go ahead and ink it up. And like I said, you could use your acetate sheet to, you know, for the trial run. But I'm just going to go ahead and just ink that up. All right. Now this particular design, ooh, is that pretty? Oh man. Okay, now I'm just going to stamp this one 4 times, okay, around. So I'll pick up my circle with this tool here, and I'm going to turn it a quarter and stamp it again, okay? But what if I want to do it 6 times around? Well, that's when that acetate sheet is going to come in real handy, because you can see if 6 will actually fit. And if it doesn't fit, then it doesn't work out where 6 is going to fit. I'll try placing my stamp closer to the outer edge, but that might mean that my medallion will have to be a little bit bigger than I wanted it to be. But I would suggest that you play around with some scrap circles first, if you can, so you can determine what size your finished circle needs to be for 6 times around with some of these bigger stamps. But now let me stamp the other 3 sides of this stamp. Okay, wow, that's looking so pretty already. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, let me put this back in, and then I'm going to choose another design on here. Now, I haven't rehearsed this or anything. I have no idea what design I'm going to use next. We'll see. Let me look at this. There's a few really pretty ones in here. I think maybe I will use this little 3-petal motif here. And so what I'm going to do that is I'm going to just turn this, okay, so that my stamp is lined up on the top in between these 2 designs. And let me just see if that's going to work out really good. I don't know. And like I said, if I use that acetate sheet, I'll be able to determine whether or not I like it first. And that's what I think I'm going to do. Now let me remove this. Let me wipe this off with my baby wipe. Remove it so that I don't get my fingers all inky. I'm going to pick this one up. I'm going to bring that acetate sheet in wherever I put it. Okay, here it is. Sorry about that. Okay, now let me go ahead and ink it up, and I'll see if I like this little petal, this little 3-petal motif here, and if it might work out okay, and also to check the position. I'm thinking I don't really like it as much as I thought I would, so let me wipe it off and let me choose another design. Okay, how about if I choose this little pretty motif? Yeah, I think maybe this one will work out better. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up. And pick it up. I'm going to ink it up. And once again, I have lost my acetate sheet. I see, oh, here it is. I seem to always do that. Lose my acetate sheet. Okay. I'm inking this up. I'm going to put my acetate in first to see if I like this design. And I think, yes, I like that much better. So let's go with it. Let me make sure I wipe this off of my acetate sheet. And I got to put my acetate sheet somewhere where I know where to find it next. Okay, let's ink this up. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp it 4 times around. What? My acetate sheet, my first acetate sheet was already down. That's why I couldn't find it. All right, now let's do that again. I'm being silly here. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to turn it, lining up these little lines with the lines on the template, and I'm going to ink this up, stamp it, turn it, now you can certainly repeat the process until, you know, I'm happy with the design, but you can use as many stamps as you want to, or even just one stamp like I did with this. Let me show you this one here. I just used one stamp from that stamp set to stamp all the way around, okay? I mean, it's all up to you and how ornate you want your medallion to be. Okay, so here's my finished medallion. I think I'm just going to leave it just like that, and I'm going to erase my my little marks that I made. Okay, but I'm not ready to place it on my on my project yet. On my card, I'm going to be placing this on a card. Okay, I'm not ready to do that yet. Okay, just erase all of this. All right, let me wipe that one off and put that one away. Okay. Okay, I need to cut it down to the size that I need. So I'm going to bring back the die that I used when I sized it, and I'm going to center this die right here, right in the center. Okay, right there. I'm going to use a piece of, oh, if I can get some of this off of here. I'm going to be using a piece of repositionable Scotch tape to hold it in place so that when I use my Big Shot's magnetic platform here, so when I use my Big Shot magnetic platform, it doesn't jump around on me like sometimes it does. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this to the Big Shot, and I will be right back. Okay, and here it is, ready to go on a card or a scrapbook page or even a three-dimensional project. But what if you decide you don't want to use your medallions or cut your medallions out of a die? Well, you can also use your circle punches. Yep. What I would do is I would basically punch out a circle for like a template with some scrap paper, you know, the size that you want your medallion to be, and then use it to determine where your stamp placement should be. And then place the scrap circle in the middle of your 3-inch circle, and then mark the outer edges and trace it. And then, you know, that's something that you're going to erase later if you do happen to trace it. But after you've stamped all your designs, you can take your 3-inch circle and use your circle punch. Okay, I have like a 2-inch circle punch here. Okay, so once you've got your designs all ready in here, you can just go ahead and punch it. You see, just make sure you have it, you know, centered, and you might need to like temporarily attach a little strip of paper so that you can hold it and place it exactly where it needs to be when you use your circle punch. So that's another option for cutting your circles. Okay, so I'm going to use this medallion to make another 4 by 4.5, I mean 4 by 4.25 inch card like I did before. Let me put this stamp positioning tool away, just somewhere where it won't fall. Okay, all right, now here we go. All right, so I want a scallop circle to frame this medallion. Let me close this so I don't get my fingers in here. So I'm going to take this layering panel of cardstock, which is in the new Fresh Fig color. Now I cut this to 4 1/4 by 4 1/8 by 4 1/8 inch square, and I'll be cutting out the scallop circle with this piece. The scallop die that I'm going to be using is also from the layering circle dies. Just realized that I didn't put this one back, which I want to do because I don't like to lose these. All right, now the scallop that I'm going to use is also the third one down. So that's 1, 2, and 3. This one here. Okay, let's put this away here. Oh, see, everything falls on the floor. Okay, now I'm going to center this And I'm going to be cutting the scallop out of this panel. And I'm not going to be able to see the circle because I'm going to be putting a panel of designer series paper over this. And this is just me being a frugal frog to save on paper. But I'm going to make sure that it's positioned right in the center. And I'm going to take this to the big shot. And I'll be right back. Okay, here's my layering circle. And it's going to layer just perfectly to give me a nice little edge around. Can you see that? A little edge right around that. Okay, it's kind of hard to see in this lighting. Okay, now let me put this one back. Okay, so now I'm ready to put this card together. I'm going to be I'm using another piece of designer series paper from the Eastern Palace stack. This designer series paper measures 4 inches square. So let's put this card together, and I'm going to use some multi-purpose liquid glue, this Tombow Mono adhesive. Okay, and this liquid glue it does dry fast, but it doesn't dry too fast, and I like it because I have a little bit of time to position my card. Now, I'm just going to be putting it on the outer edges here. Okay, just giving it a little bit more on the corners. Okay, and this kind of gives me a little time to position it right in the center, and I'm having a very, very thin border, which is like a 1/16 of an inch of border around this card here. So that is the way it goes. Okay, and next I'm going to also do the same with my little medallion circle. Okay, and make sure that it's centered, and I've got an even border all the way around. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my card base. Now, my card base is the new thick, very vanilla cardstock, and you can get some of this before June 1st. If you order one of the bundles that I spoke about earlier, you're going to get a packet of thick vanilla, very vanilla cardstock with some envelopes too in one of those bundles. So check it out, okay? So anyway, this measures 8.5 by 4 1/4, and I've scored it at 4 1/4 to make it a square card. Now I'm going to use my bone folder to make sure that that crease is nice and crisp. Okay, and now I'm going to determine whether I want. Well, it really doesn't matter right now. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and attach this panel to my card base, and I'm going to still use some of this adhesive, this liquid multi-purpose glue. Multi-purpose liquid glue, putting a little bit of extra on the corners. Okay, and then I'm going to just go ahead and attach this as neatly as I can, and once again I'll have like a 1/16 of an inch of a border around with that. And now it's time to attach the medallion right in the center. Oh, that's gonna look so pretty. Okay, I'm gonna use that and do that using some of the Stampin' Dimensionals. Okay, now I want to tell you a little secret, and if you don't know this already, but Stampin' Up! Is coming out with some mini Stampin' Dimensionals. Yep, minis. I can't wait to get my hands on them, and they'll be available on the 1st of June with the in the new annual catalog. Okay, so I'm putting about 5 of them on here. And I'm going to try to center this medallion. My fingers are a little sticky with that glue. Okay, now I'm going to determine whether I want my card to open this way, or do I want my card to open this way? I think I want my card to open like a tent. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to try to do that. Centering my card, kind of centering my card here with my grid. I love this grid paper because it really just helps me center things, and I'm not always perfect even when I use this, but let's see, I think this is a little bit high. Sometimes if I get right on top of it, I can kind of see that I'm centering it straight. How about that? Isn't that pretty? And this is such a simple card to make too. A nice little thank you card. Okay, and I'll be making an envelope for this later on. All right, now, as I promised, I want to quickly show you how you can use this template. Let me grab another one of my templates here. Okay, you can use this template with your Stampin'-A-Jig, okay? Now, it would be helpful to have some kind of grid paper underneath your template, but it's not necessary. If you don't plan to stamp a larger single design in the center like I did, but you know, having the grid sheet does help to determine the center of your circle, but you got to make sure that your template lines up with the grid lines on your paper. So here I have my grid paper, and it's going to be easy for me to line up with those two cross papers and to line up with all the little squares in there. Okay, so what I would do is I would just take some temporary adhesive or some washi tape to tape that down. Okay, and then once I've got that taped down and I've determined the size that I want to make my circle, then I would put my circle in there. I would take my Stampin'-A-Jig and put the Stampin'-A-Jig tool just right on the corner, and then I would place my stamp here wherever I want, whatever stamps I want, and I'm going to be using a block to pick up the stamp. Now this block is block E, okay? But if you choose to use a bigger block, you can use your block F. I chose E because it's a little bit easier for me to hold it. So you'll be able to pick up your stamp, ink it up, and then stamp it, and then turn your circle to stamp it again. You don't have to worry about that it's not covering the whole circle, because you're turning the circle and not the stamp. The stamp is going to stay where it is. Okay, so I think you can kind of get the picture as to how you could use your Stampin'-A-Jig for this method. Okay, and you could also use this acrylic sheet just by lining it up right on top of the template, so that you can position your stamps too before you actually stamp. Stamp it on here first if you like it, take it off, ink up your stamp again, and then stamp it for real. Okay? All right, so that's the way you use your Stampin'-A-Jig. All right, so even though oh wait, I'm using some notes here so I don't skip anything, because there's a lot on this video. So anyway, like I said, you can probably determine that having a template is key to making this type of medallion, and you can use just about any small element from any stamp set to achieve wonderful symmetrical designs in many sizes. Now here is a card where I made a spring wreath. Okay, see that spring wreath? Isn't that pretty? And I used this template for that. And I also used the Jar of Love stamp set, which is another stamp set that has some small elements that are perfect for this type of design. And you see that I used a lot of Wink of Stella in here. I don't know if you could see that. I wanted to give this card a lot of sparkle. Okay, so now what I'm doing for my customers who shop with me starting today, May 12th, 2017 through June 12th of 2017, is I'll be giving you a template just like this one, made out of the thick Whisper White cardstock. But that's not all. I'm going to be giving you 6. I'm going to be giving you 12. I'll be giving you 12 of these 3-inch circles, 6 in Whisper White and 6 in Very Vanilla. And that's not all. I'm also going to throw in a piece of thin acetate that measures 5 1/4-inch squares, and that's to help you position your stamp. So all you have to do to get this little medallion making kit is to place an order with me in my store, my Stampin'-Up store, of $20 or more, and that's before shipping and taxes. And use the hostess code that's listed in my blog. And remember, the link to my blog is for this project is listed just below. Also, just a note, if your order is $150 or more, don't use the hostess codes, because you don't want to miss out on your Stampin' rewards. But don't worry, I'll still send you your free medallion making kit. Now the kit will ship out separately from your order, okay? And this is exclusively for my customers who shop with me during the dates that I just mentioned. So just think of all the beautiful design elements that you could make with this template. I'm having so much fun. So much fun using this template with the Eastern Beauty and other stamp sets that have all of the smaller elements on here, okay? Now I might even be making a different type of template too, but that might be later, so stay tuned. But for now, I hope that I've taught you something, okay? And if I have, please give my video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more fun, easy projects using Stampin'Up products. And to place an order, please go to my website at www.geamazingpapercrafts.stampinup.net. And the link is also listed below the video. And once you're in my website, click on the shop button toward the top. So once again, I'm Jeanette with Amazing Paper Crafts, and you make it a great day. Bye-bye.